Let's face it, onboarding is tough. It doesn't need to be as complicated as we make it. We can simplify by breaking it down into specific pieces. One of the things that I'm pretty good at that a number of people struggle with is process creation, designing backward so that we can execute forward. If we break things down into smaller pieces, we can simplify our approach to doing it. Let's go to the whiteboard and fix onboarding inside your organization. This is hard stuff. It doesn't need to be complicated. There are a lot of hirings that go on as we move toward the end of the year and get prepared for the beginning of next year. So let's talk today about how you improve the onboarding experience for the people that you're bringing inside your organization. And there's three really key stages. One stage is this whole pipeline creation perspective. How do you create this group of people that you want to bring in to the organization? The next one is pipeline development. I understand these are sales things we've talked about before. From a sales perspective, we're talking about getting people inside our business. So we have pipeline creation, pool of candidates that we want to bring in, pipeline development. Once we start going through the hiring process, how do we get them to the point where they either convert out or convert forward? And then we get into onboarding. Okay. So we've got pipeline creation, pipeline development, then onboarding. Think about all of the time, energy, and resource that you invest in these stages. And then think about the time, energy, and resource you invest in this stage. Now, there's a couple of different things that you're probably thinking about from an onboarding perspective. What I would suggest is you put together your checklist of the minimum number of things that are necessary in order for a person, new employee inside your business, to be as effective as possible. Let's design backward and then execute forward from a 90-day perspective. So if we want to go through the first 90 days for someone new inside our organization, what are some of the things that need to be true, some of the things that need to happen in order for them to be successful? What does success look like at that 90-day period? That is something you have to define. And here's the challenge. Don't define it on your own. Lean on other people inside the business. Think about those functional areas of the business for that role. What team are they a part of? What teams are they connected to? How can you create that enablement space for them to be successful in each of those areas, and work with the people inside those organizations to help connect those specific dots? What does success look like at the 90-day period? What are the things that need to be true? And I would suggest that you limit this to 3 things. What are the top 3 things that need to be true in order for this person who you brought into the role to be successful? What are the jobs they need to be doing? What do the metrics need to look like? What feedback do you need to get from them? Limit yourself to 3, and let's design based on that. So in order to be able to do that, how do you know that that's the reality? There might be some kind of an assessment that they have to go through. It might be an assessment of data that needs to be done. That needs to happen right about the 90-day period to say, yep, this person is successful. Before you can assess it, they need to actually do those things. They need to do the work, because you can't assess the work if you haven't done the work. Remember, you can't reflect on what you're going to do. In order to be able to do the thing, they probably need to shadow or see someone else, maybe get some coaching on how to do the thing. And before they get the coaching so that they're prepared, they need some training. Training, coaching, do, assess, data, 90 days. Those might be the big blocks. Well, those might be the bigger things that we need to do, but what's the actual plan start to look like? What's the continuum? What's the path actually start to look like? Maybe before the training, they actually have to they have to have their documents, they have to have their tech, they have to be connected into the organization. On the training side of things, there might be some content that they're actually going through. Maybe that there are some training on something like a tool like HubSpot, as an example, or how to use Outlook effectively inside the organization. Maybe some general things around values and guiding principles to help with decision making. But there's some training, there's some coaching, there's some doing, then there's some assessment that ends up happening. You can plan this out as an individual inside your business. And I would expect that the person who's coming into the business wants to have their plan too. So what's their plan for the first 90 days? Where are they focusing time, energy, and attention? These are the things that we need to have together in order to be able to make sure that the person is effective as they go through it. Now, I know this is really simple stuff here, but you've got to figure out what are your specific buckets, sections here, and then what are the specific things that are required in order to people to convert from one stage to another. What is your exit criteria? Exit criteria at each stage to make sure that someone has actually moved through it. How do you know? What are the specific data points that you need to be able to capture in order to be able to do this? Here's why I would not do this in a vacuum. If you're doing this inside your organization and you have a perspective of how someone needs to be onboarded effectively, you're going to have your own personal blind spots. You're going to skip some steps. Make this a team effort. And if you're looking to figure out a way to help keep your team more engaged in the process and help improve success, help with that cross-functional communication stuff that happens across those individual groups, this is a great way to go through the process of doing it. The next thing I would suggest that you do is take a couple of people who've gone through the process recently and have them test and assess against this. What did they miss? How are they documenting it? Yesterday, I did a quick video on the documentation piece. We want to know tools. What kind of tools do people need to have access? That's typically that technology, the resources. What kind of process is necessary for people to be effective? What type of data is important or needed for them to be able to be effective in the work that they're doing? What information is that? Tools, process, data, ultimately creating our systems for effective onboarding. When we communicate, one of the things I like to use is Google Doc. Have that as a rolling onboarding document to help the person on the other end who's being onboarded have all the information in a single place. This helps when transitioning roles too. Have a single document where this information is housed or hosted, and then also have links out to other important pieces of resources like dashboards or documentation or other definitions or even some videos that get recorded. We want to make sure that we have all of the information, and then we have a place where we're documenting, and that documentation or that checklist is also supported both on the individual side. They have to take ownership of their work. Remember, looking for leadership, start with a mirror, help them take personal accountability to the work. But then you, as a leader inside the business, work with them hand in hand. So from an onboarding perspective, my recommendation here, understand what success looks like in the first 90 days, lay out the key milestones that need to be achieved, what are the specific data points inside each of those individual areas, and what are our specific exit criteria. Work with people inside your organization. Do this as a collaborative effort. If you're looking for help on this side, this could be one of the guided whiteboard sessions that we do where we design a process to achieve a specific objective. You can find your catalyst at findmycatalyst.com. If you have questions, hit me up.